Hey there, restaurant pros. David Scott Peters here, creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula and your coach. Have you ever looked at your profit and loss statement and wondered what the hell goes into one or more of your line items? Have you ever asked yourself what expense goes into that line item and decided not to call your accountant because you're fearful of getting charged more? Has your profit and loss statement become merely something that pays your taxes versus a critical tool for measuring your restaurant's success? If you'd like to understand why any of these have become true in your business, stay tuned and I'm going to explain to you a restaurant accounting chart of accounts that will change how you look at your profit and loss statement. Before we do that, hey, if you like more tips and tricks like this, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, oh yeah, that bell, so you're notified when my next video comes out. And if you want more tips and tricks for running a profitable restaurant or listen to restaurant success stories, make sure you tune into my podcast, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, found on all your popular podcasting services. So, what is a restaurant chart of accounts anyway? Right? It's that line item. We see everything outlined step by step, if you will. Hey, from cost of goods sold down to labor cost by position to all of your operating expenses. Well, it's more than that. Your chart of accounts is your personal decoder ring to understanding your restaurant numbers. Right? Do you remember that when you were a kid? Well, most of us didn't have that, but think all the way back to this. You can decipher it this way. If you celebrate Christmas, or even if you don't, do you remember A Christmas Story? You know, on TBS, it plays over and over and over again about the kid who wanted the BB gun. Well, one of the things at the beginning of the show is he's listening to Little Orphan Annie on the radio, and they've got this code, and you've got to order your decoder ring. Well, in this case, it was a spinning thing. And he's sitting there go, drink more Ovaltine. He was all pissed off. But the truth of the matter is, isn't that kind of how we feel about our P&L sometimes? We look at it and we go down to the last number, which is our profit and loss, get pissed off, right? We spend all this time, but we really don't understand our numbers. So let's talk about some of the common mistakes of why a chart of accounts doesn't work very well for most restaurant operators. So that when you look at it, you don't know what you're looking at. Well, there's GAAP versus what? Being useful. GAAP is generally accepted accounting principles. So your CPA or accountant could be doing things based on GAAP. They take your cost of goods sold divided by your total sales, which gives you a food cost of like 10%, versus useful is cost of goods sold food divided into food sales, giving me a 30% food cost, a number that I can understand. Most chart of accounts, we see a lot of people who say just food and alcohol. Well, that doesn't really tell me a lot. I need it split up into food, NA-BEV, bottled beer, draft beer, wine, liquor, merchandise. Because why? Each cost of goods sold number will be different when I get to my budgeting part. So I need to measure those individually. The other part with cost of goods sold, often I see, again, based on GAAP or what people always do, is they take their full broadline distributor invoice and put it into food. Well, you don't sell toilet paper. It doesn't belong in there. You don't sell small wares or small pieces of equipment. So you've got to split up the food portion of those invoices to go in cost of goods sold alone, where we take all the others and put them as line items as expenses. Now I've got a clear picture of what's going on in my business. When it comes to labor, I often see salary or hourly, front of house, back of house. Well, how do you know if there's a problem? How do you measure? So we need to break it up to salaried managers, hourly managers. If you're a full service restaurant, servers, bussers, hosts, right? Barbacks, bartenders, dishwashers, prep cooks, line cooks. You need to break it up. That way I can see where my problem points are versus what if I just see one big number called labor? But there is a little bit of something you got to worry about is being too detailed in your chart of accounts versus no detail whatsoever. And what do I mean by this? Too detailed is you've got so many line items that it's an arduous process to look at your numbers, that you break every expense into its own little category. Whereas maybe you're running your business and as I described before, you just have salaried, hourly. You only have food and alcohol. You only have like 10 line items and says, here is my operating expenses for the restaurant, and here is my debt service, here's my rent, and so on. And there's just almost nothing there. And you look at your chart of accounts, go, what the hell? What are all the numbers that go into that one line item? Well, you need to find a balance. You need to find a balance that when you look at your chart of accounts, your profit and loss statement, you can read it, that you have that decoder ring. Because here's the deal. See, there is no wrong chart of accounts. They all pay taxes. But if you want a chart of accounts that means something to you, that gives you the ability to measure your restaurant success, then you need to tell your accountant how you want your chart of accounts set up and what expenses go into each line item. And you'll be on your way to running a restaurant that gives you the personal and financial freedom you deserve. A chart of accounts sets your financial plan into motion because that which we measure improves. And if you don't understand your numbers, you don't have the opportunity to improve and run the restaurant of your dreams. If you're tired of not being able to leave your restaurant because no one else knows how to run it, I want to make sure you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can leave your restaurant. It is possible to build a team of people who know how you want the restaurant to run. With these trained and responsible people in place, you can give yourself time away. What would you do if you had time away from your restaurant? Would you sleep better? Would your relationships improve? Would you feel more relaxed? These are all things you deserve to experience as a business owner. It's why we own our own businesses. If you would like to learn how to own a restaurant that doesn't depend on you to be successful, click the link in the description to watch a free training course that teaches you exactly what you have to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to get my weekly tips and watch these 2 videos to get more information and guidance for running a successful restaurant.